The scent of oud and cardamom hung heavy in the opulent majlis, a perfume of tradition clinging to the gilded screens and plush velvet cushions. Zara sat hunched, a small, still form amidst the swirling conversations and clinking teacups, her own tea long grown cold beside her. The sounds of laughter, bright and distant, seemed to pierce her rather than warm her, each chime a stark reminder of the chasm separating her from the world around her. She traced the intricate arabesques on the wooden panel before her, her fingers numb, mirroring the cold emptiness that had settled deep within her chest. Her body ached, a persistent dull throb that had become a constant companion, a ghost limb of sorrow she carried everywhere. The vibrant silks and rich brocades of her abaya felt like a heavy shroud, trapping her within a shell of expected grace she could no longer inhabit. Her gaze drifted to the intricate mosaic patterns on the polished marble floor, each tiny tessera a perfect cold fragment, reflecting the shattered pieces of her own inner landscape. She longed for the anonymity of shadows, for a corner where the light did not demand a response, where the weight of expectations would not press upon her. The majlis, usually a sanctuary of familial warmth and lively discourse, now felt like a gilded cage. Its grandeur, designed to impress and envelop, only amplified her isolation. Every hushed word, every knowing glance exchanged by others, seemed to confirm her profound aloneness. She felt herself shrinking, a flicker of a flame in a vast, indifferent hall. Her mind replayed fragmented images, whispers, and unspoken accusations, each a sharp shard further embedding itself into her weary soul. A tremor ran through her, a desperate plea for reprieve from the relentless hum of her own despair. A soft, warm hand touched her shoulder, jolting her from her reverie. Zara looked up, her eyes slowly focusing on the kind, familiar face of Samira. A gentle smile, brimming with genuine concern, illuminated Samira's features. Her voice, a melodic balm, cut through the clamor, offering a lifeline in the sea of Zara's sorrow. She merely asked with a tender heart, "My dearest, why do you sit here all by yourself?" The reverberations of truth, unleashed from the hidden corners of Al-Hamad Holdings, settled across the gleaming structures of Riyadh, not as a tremor of destruction, but as a deep, resonant hum of change. Yasmin El-Fahim, now embodying the quiet authority of her new title, moved through the corridors that once represented the sterile indifference of power. Each day in her sunlit office, with the subtle scent of Arabian oud perfuming the air, she sifted through the vestiges of the old regime, turning over stones long left unturned. The view of the Riyadh skyline from her window, no longer merely a symbol of superficial wealth, began to reflect the quiet resolve of a nascent ethical dawn, its golden hues promising more than just prosperity. The systemic abuses, once shrouded in silence, now formed the bedrock of her mission. She envisioned a company where every individual was a pearl, recognized and cherished, no longer lost on the rough velvet of corporate neglect. Her days were a tapestry woven with listening sessions, policy reviews, and difficult conversations. She saw the hesitant eyes of employees, still wary, still conditioned by years of fear, slowly beginning to trust the genuine concern in her gaze. The Grace Scholarship Program, her personal tribute to those who had suffered in silence, was not merely a monetary offering, but a testament to the company's rediscovered soul, an investment in futures that had almost been extinguished. Rashid Al-Hamad, visibly transformed, supported her initiatives with an unwavering conviction, a silent acknowledgement of his past blindness. He often sought her counsel, his imposing presence now softened by a humility that few had ever witnessed. The boardroom, once a fortress of resistance, felt the persistent pressure of Yasmin's meticulous reports and her calm, irrefutable demands for accountability. Adnan Ghazi, the CFO, still clung to the remnants of the old guard, his arguments for financial prudence now often undercut by the stark moral imperative Yasmin embodied. The fight against systemic corruption was far from over. It was an ongoing excavation, each layer revealing deeper roots of injustice. Yasmin understood that the blooming truth from the desert of silence required constant tending. The transparency policies she implemented were designed to be living documents, evolving with the needs of the people. She initiated anonymous feedback channels, ensuring that voices, however faint, would always find an avenue to be heard. The stories she encountered, of Karim's stolen intellectual property, and Reem's demotion for refusing to falsify a diversity report fueled her determination. She knew that the scars of past injustices ran deep, and healing required more than just policy changes. It demanded a fundamental shift in empathy, a collective recalibration of what it meant to be seen and valued within the company's vast ecosystem. The initial turmoil had subsided, replaced by a sense of disciplined rebuilding, but the air still held the tangible tension of change, a quiet hum before the next challenge. The subtle scent of Arabian oud, a personal touch, now infused Yasmin's sunlit office, a contrast to the sterile air that once filled the corporate halls. She leaned back, her gaze sweeping the organized documents on her desk, each file a testament to a voice once silenced. The Riyadh skyline, a canvas of amber and gold at sunset, shimmered beyond her window, reflecting not just the city's opulence, but the growing light of a deeper transformation within Al Hamad Holdings. She knew the fight against systemic corruption was far from over, each layer revealing deeper roots of injustice and demanding unwavering resolve. Yasmin understood that truth blooming from a desert of silence required constant tending. The transparency policies she implemented were living documents, evolving with the people's needs, ensuring everyone felt like a cherished pearl, no longer lost on the rough velvet of corporate neglect. She opened anonymous feedback channels, so whispers, however faint, would be heard. The stories she found, Karim's stolen intellectual property, Reem's demotion for refusing to falsify a diversity report, fueled her determination. The scars of past injustices ran deep. Healing required more than policy changes. It demanded a fundamental shift in empathy, a recalibration of what it meant to be seen and valued. The initial turmoil had subsided into disciplined rebuilding, but the air still held the tension of change, a hum before the next challenge. Rashid Al Hamad, visibly changed, supported her initiatives with quiet conviction, a tacit acknowledgement of past blindness. He often sought her counsel, his presence softened by a humility few had seen. The boardroom, once a fortress of resistance, felt the pressure of Yasmin's reports and her calm, irrefutable demands for accountability. Adnan Ghazi, the CFO, clung to the old guard. His arguments for financial prudence were often undercut by the moral imperative Yasmin embodied. His resistance, a low thrum, reminded her that old ways die hard and true. Cultural shifts require continuous vigilance. Yasmin moved with measured energy and unyielding resolve. She spent hours not only with executives, but with the forgotten workforce, the cleaners, security guards, the machine's silent gears. She learned of Jamal, a part-time janitor working full-time hours without benefits, his fatigue etched in his eyes. She listened to Samira, a maintenance worker with debilitating joint pain, afraid to take sick leave lest she lose meager earnings. Each story was a tessera in a mosaic of neglect, a fragment of the unseen she was determined to reveal. Her office, once a symbol of status, became a hub of quiet revolution where the human cost of corporate indifference was tallied. The idea of a desert rose in a glass dome resonated with her, a metaphor for the endurance and beauty of those trapped by circumstance. Yasmin aimed to dismantle the dome, not to shatter the delicate rose, but to let its strength be seen, nurtured, and celebrated. Her role was not just to fix systems, but to rehumanize them. So whispers of injustice were heard and acted upon, transforming the cold edifice of Al Hamad Holdings into a place where every voice mattered. The days ahead would bring new battles and resistances, but Yasmin El-Fahim stood ready, her purpose as clear as the desert dawn, knowing that from the desert of silence, the truth blooms. The quiet strength of that conviction settled deep within her, a compass through the shifting sands of corporate politics. Yasmin knew the real work began in quiet spaces, individual conversations, the slow task of dismantling years of ingrained fear and apathy. Al Hamad Holdings' gleaming towers, once intimidating monoliths, now hummed with nascent energy, a subtle vibration of possibility. She felt expectation as fuel, propelling her forward with a steady rhythm. Each dawn painted Riyadh's skyline with fresh hues and brought renewed purpose, a quiet understanding that seeds of change, once sown, required constant vigilance and care. Her office, with its expansive view of the waking city, became a sanctuary for contemplation and action. She stood by the window, Arabian coffee warming her hands, watching vehicles snake through urban arteries. Each car, each distant figure, represented a life. A potential desert rose yearning for light beyond its glass dome. The metaphor became her mantra, a reminder of the balance between systemic overhaul and individual dignity. She thought of Jamal's weary eyes and Samira's pain-racked joints. Their faces drove her beyond mere policy. They were not statistics, but the company's fabric. Their well-being was paramount. New policies weren't enough. Transformation demanded a cultural shift, a recalibration of collective empathy. She started weekly listening circles where employees at all levels could share experiences, anxieties, and suggestions without fear. At first, the silence was deafening, a testament to suppressed voices. Slowly, whispers emerged, becoming shared narratives and then collective aspirations. She fostered an environment where vulnerability was strength, dialogue replaced rumors, and grievances met genuine concern, not platitudes. It was painstaking and often frustrating, yet each small victory, shared smile, and moment of rediscovered trust affirmed her resolve. Adnan Ghazi remained a persistent shadow, his financial arguments laced with veiled resentment. He clung to old guard principles, framing Yasmin's initiatives as costly distractions. She met his resistance calmly, presenting data on retention, productivity, and reduced turnover to show the benefits of a human-centric approach. Her reports were narratives of reclaimed potential, of individuals thriving. Rashid Al-Hamad remained her staunchest ally. His quiet authority countered Ghazi's opposition. His boardroom presence, often silent, endorsed Yasmin's vision and signaled a new era of leadership rooted in integrity. Challenges were manifold. She knew every step would meet new resistance, deep-seated biases, subtle sabotage by those profiting from the old ways, and corporate inertia were forces to contend with. Yet her spirit remained unbroken, her focus undimmed. She understood changing a company was like changing a desert landscape, gradual, persistent work to turn barrenness into fertility, one grain of sand at a time. The desert rose was blooming, petals unfurling in newfound light, testament to truth's power and the quiet strength of those who dared. The journey was long, but her purpose remained clear, illuminating the path through the labyrinth of corporate renewal. The labyrinth of corporate renewal stretched before her, an intricate network of challenges and opportunities. Yasmin often found herself walking these unseen paths at twilight, the city lights below mirroring the constellation of tasks ahead. Her personal life, once a vibrant tapestry of social engagements and quiet reflection, had receded, replaced by the relentless demands of Al-Hamad Holdings. The apartment, with its sweeping views of Riyadh, felt less like a home and more like a temporary refuge, a place to recharge before plunging back into the fray. Even her morning ritual of Arabian coffee, once a moment of serene contemplation, now served as a utilitarian fuel, a necessary step before the day's strategic maneuvers. She saw the city, not as a backdrop for leisure, but as a living organism pulsing with the lives she was striving to touch and transform. The weight of responsibility was immense, yet it forged her resolve, sharpened her focus, and solidified her understanding that true change was a slow, deliberate act of cultivation, much like coaxing life from the desert itself. Each reclaimed voice, each small policy shift, each individual lifted from obscurity, became a petal in the growing desert rose she envisioned. The journey was not merely about restructuring a company. It was about resculpting a culture, one honest conversation, and one brave decision at a time, ensuring that the roots of empathy grew as deep as the gleaming towers themselves. The deep roots of empathy, though newly planted, began to shift the foundations of Al-Hamad Holdings, creating fissures in the old, hardened earth. Yasmin's days unfolded in a meticulous dance between strategy and micro-interactions, each a thread in the tapestry of transformation. She walked the manufacturing floors, corridors of logistics and call centers, her presence a quiet ripple that unsettled stagnant waters. Wary glances softened into hesitant smiles, and the tentative offering of personal stories, each a fragile testament to trust. Jamal, the janitor, no longer averted his gaze, instead offering a respectful nod, acknowledging changes that eased his grueling shifts and secured his benefits. Samira, joints still aching, spoke openly in listening circles, Her voice, gaining strength as she shared, assured her concerns would meet action, not indifference. These small human victories, often unnoticed by the upper echelons, were the true pulse of the company's reawakening. The gleaming glass of the corporate towers still reflected the harsh desert sun, but within a different light was growing, one of shared humanity. Yasmin felt the weight of expectations and hopes, but embraced it, born of a collective desire for fairness. She understood that cultural change was not a swift overhaul but patient cultivation, like waiting for a rare desert bloom. Resistance, though less overt, lingered like a phantom limb, particularly in the quiet resentment radiating from Adnan Ghazi. He framed her initiatives as financial imprudence, subtler now, cloaked as concern for sustainability, but his fear of losing control remained palpable. Yasmin countered with data showing return on investment in human capital, reduced turnover, better morale, measurable productivity, painting not expenses, but renewed organizational vitality. Rashid Al-Hamad remained steadfast, his understanding of corporate responsibility deepening each week. He engaged Yasmin in reflective conversations about the lasting legacy rather than immediate gains. His quiet authority steadied the boardroom against Ghazi. His well-placed words cut through the CFO's veiled objections. Yasmin drew strength from his belief, a silent partnership forged in change. Yet the journey was far from over. Hidden pockets of resistance still undermined policies, clinging to privilege and opacity. These unseen skirmishes were fought with vigilance, ethical fortitude, and an unwavering commitment to transparency. Her focus extended outward, partnerships with local schools to create skill pathways, empowering the community that fed Al-Hamad. The Grace Scholarship Program expanded, providing financial aid, mentorship, and holistic support, transforming lives one student at a time. She envisioned a symbiotic relationship between company and ecosystem, a reciprocal flow of growth and opportunity. The apartment, once a retreat, now hummed with purpose. Evenings were spent poring over reports, refining strategy, and preparing for the next day's battles, each small victory contributing to the blossoming she sought. The Riyadh skyline offered a promise, a horizon of possibility that sharpened her resolve. The desert rose unfurled, each petal a testament to the courage needed to cultivate justice. The stillness before the next challenge was a quiet breath, a fleeting calm before the next tide of transformation. The stillness before the next challenge was a quiet breath, a fleeting calm before the next tide of transformation. Yasmin felt this deep within her, a quiet understanding that the desert, though vast and seemingly unyielding, held the promise of profound shifts, not through sudden storms, but through the patient erosion of old ways and the slow, deliberate nurturing of new life. Her gaze often drifted to the horizon, where the golden light of dawn met the expansive blue, a metaphor for the endless possibilities and the arduous path ahead. The weight of her new title, Director of People First, settled on her shoulders not as a burden, but as a mantle of purpose, solidifying her commitment to weave human dignity into the very fabric of Al-Hamad Holdings. This role was more than an elevation. It was an affirmation, a public declaration of the company's reorientation, a symbol of the profound pivot from profit-driven ruthlessness to human-centric prosperity. She understood that every eye, both within and outside the corporation, watched her now, scrutinizing her every move, testing the sincerity of this new direction. The responsibility was immense, yet it resonated with her deepest convictions, a melody of justice she had always sought to play. She knew the coming days would demand even greater resilience, sharper wit, and an unshakable belief in the transformative power of empathy. The path was not simply about mending broken systems. It was about inspiring a new collective consciousness, a shared understanding that genuine success was measured not in quarterly reports alone, but in the well-being and flourishing of every individual who contributed to the company's heartbeat. Her office, now a true command center of compassion, buzzed with an energy that was both strategic and deeply personal, a place where spreadsheets met stories and policy reforms were imbued with human faces. She began to conceptualize a comprehensive wellness program, not merely as a perk, but as a fundamental right, addressing not only physical health but also mental and emotional well-being. recognizing that a truly thriving workforce was a holistic one. The desert rose, in her mind, was no longer just a metaphor for resilience. It was a living, breathing testament to the power of deliberate cultivation, each unfurling petal a victory in the ongoing campaign for a more just and humane corporate landscape. The air, though calm, vibrated with an anticipation that was both thrilling and daunting, a silent overture to the next grand movement in her intricate symphony of change. The silence, pregnant with unspoken promise, gave way to a subtle shift in the company's rhythm. Yasmin felt Al-Hamad Holdings breathe out the old and tentatively breathe in the new. Her directorship was not merely a title on a polished plaque. It was a beacon, drawing both the hopeful and the wary. She moved through the corporate landscape with sharpened awareness, attuned to currents of resistance and shoots of cooperation. The glass facades of the towers, once symbols of an unyielding structure, now shimmered with the transparency she pursued. Each morning, as the desert sun painted the Riyadh skyline in gold and rose, she felt the city's pulse, knowing the welfare of its people was bound to the vitality of the company she sought to redefine. The wellness program took shape not as a separate initiative, but as part of daily operations: health clinics and mental health support, nutrition workshops, stress management courses, and flexible arrangements to meet modern demands. She saw it as tending the soil around the desert rose, ensuring every root received sustenance so each petal could unfurl. The approach met cautious optimism and ingrained skepticism. Some, long suffering in silence, approached with fragile hope. Others, hardened by empty rhetoric, held back, their trust a delicate bloom. Yasmin knew systemic change wasn't a decree, but cultivation, through steady action and presence. She spent hours in dialogue, not merely presenting policies but listening, letting unfiltered stories refine the program. These were the real metrics. The young father finally taking paternity leave without fear, the whispered thanks of a woman accessing mental health support for the first time, the relief in an older worker's eyes after ergonomic adjustments eased years of pain. Adnan Ghazi, persistent antagonist, kept framing the initiatives as extravagant drains on resources. His claims were undercut by empirical data, drops in absenteeism, better retention, and a tangible rise in productivity. Yasmin's reports were meticulous, each number proving that investing in people was both moral and sound business. Rashid Al-Hamad remained her steady anchor, his quiet endorsement countering Ghazi's opposition. His growing conviction radiated through the boardroom, solidifying the new direction. The transformation into a human-centric enterprise was unfinished. Corporate culture resists quick change, yet the air now carried a different hum, not trepidation, but burgeoning life. The desert rose, carefully cultivated, began casting a gentle, verdant shadow across the once barren ground, a potent symbol of hope and beauty, born from purpose. The path ahead shimmered, lit by the dawn of a more empathetic era, where each person could be seen, valued, and enabled to flourish. Her resolve remained unyielding, a quiet strength promising to reshape the organization's heart. The Riyadh skyline, once a symbol of sterile wealth, now reflected a new dawn for corporate ethics. Yasmin stood as a symbol of truth, acknowledging that the fight for justice was continuous, but the silence had been broken, and truth now echoed through the halls of power, ensuring that the truth never got swept away. The echoes of truth resonated not just within the polished corridors of Al-Hamad Holdings, but rippled outward, touching the lives of countless individuals who had once toiled in silent obscurity. Yasmin, now firmly entrenched as the director of People First, moved with a quiet authority that commanded respect without demanding it, her presence a constant reminder that power could serve a purpose beyond self-interest. Her office, no longer just a functional space, felt like a nerve center, a hub where the threads of individual stories were woven into a larger narrative of systemic change. The Grace Scholarship Program, her personal triumph, blossomed with each new recipient, a living testament to the company's rediscovered soul and an investment in futures that had almost been extinguished. She meticulously tracked its progress, ensuring that the scholarships were not just financial aid, but comprehensive support systems, offering mentorship and holistic well-being. The once wary eyes of employees now met hers with a glimmer of trust, a fragile but growing hope that their voices would not only be heard but acted upon. Even Adnan Ghazi, though still resistant to the core, found his arguments for financial prudence increasingly undermined by the irrefutable data Yasmin presented, showcasing the tangible benefits of a human-centric approach. Rashid Al-Hamad remained her unwavering ally, his quiet strength and visible transformation a powerful counterpoint to any lingering dissent. The sprawling corporate empire, once a monument to indifference, was slowly but irrevocably reshaping itself, petal by painstaking petal, into a true desert rose, resilient, beautiful, and deeply rooted in the fertile ground of justice and empathy. The path ahead was still long, fraught with unseen challenges, yet the air, once heavy with the weight of unspoken burdens, now carried the light, fresh scent of a nascent collective future, a vibrant tapestry of shared humanity. The fresh scent of a nascent collective future, a vibrant tapestry of shared humanity, filled the air, replacing the heavy weight of unspoken burdens. It was a tangible shift, almost imperceptible to those not attuned to the subtle currents within Al-Hamad Holdings. Yasmin, at the heart of this unfolding transformation, understood that the initial shockwaves of revelation had settled, yielding to the more profound, arduous work of rebuilding. The sprawling corporate empire, once a monument to indifference, now felt like fertile ground, patiently awaiting the deeper cultivation of true empathy. Each passing day brought new small victories, measured not in profit margins, but in the quiet restoration of dignity to individuals who had long been overlooked, their stories now forming the very foundation of the company's revitalized ethos. She moved through the newly configured corridors with an inner compass, navigating the lingering shadows of resistance and the burgeoning pockets of genuine collaboration. The Grace Scholarship Program, her personal triumph, continued to expand its reach, a testament to futures reclaimed, its growing roster of recipients embodying the company's rediscovered soul. These scholarships were meticulously crafted to offer more than just financial aid. They were comprehensive support systems, weaving mentorship and holistic well-being into their very fabric. Even Adnan Ghazi, though still clinging to his antiquated notions of fiscal prudence, found his arguments increasingly losing their force against Yasmin's irrefutable data, which consistently showcased the tangible benefits of a human-centric approach. Rashid Al-Hamad remained her steadfast ally, his quiet strength and visible transformation acting as a powerful counterpoint to any lingering dissent, his unwavering conviction, a silent promise that the old ways would never again prevail. The Riyadh skyline, once a stark reminder of sterile wealth, now seemed to shimmer with a new kind of luminescence, reflecting the quiet dawn of corporate ethics. Yasmin stood within this transformed landscape, a living symbol of truth, acknowledging that the fight for justice was an ongoing journey, an eternal vigilance required to ensure that the whispers of the past never again became a deafening silence, and that truth, once spoken, would forever echo through the halls of power, never to be swept away again. The meticulous unfolding of her vision continued, a complex symphony of change where every note, every subtle shift, contributed to a grander composition of justice. The grander composition of justice began to play out in the daily rhythms of Al-Hamad Holdings. Its melody carried on the quiet hum of newly empowered voices. Yasmin noticed subtle shifts. Conversations flowed more openly in hallways. Collaboration blossomed in meetings that once felt guarded. The wellness program, once just a concept, now pulsed with life, offering tangible support that resonated across the workforce. Employees who'd seemed invisible now felt seen, their worth acknowledged like pearls brought up from dark depths. The physical health clinic saw steady traffic, a place of preventative care and genuine healing rather than rushed consultations. Mental health, once a taboo whisper, became a recognized pillar of well-being, with confidential sessions offering solace and strategies for stress. Nutrition workshops dispelled myths and fostered healthier habits, while stress management courses gave tools to thrive amid the company's demands. Flexible work arrangements, once opposed by the old guard, were carefully implemented, recognizing employees' multifaceted lives and allowing for family commitments and growth. Yasmin intended this holistic approach to dismantle the glass dome, not to shatter the desert rose within, but to nourish its roots so its petals could unfurl fully. Adnan Ghazi, predictably, remained a discordant note. His objections, though less strident, still centered on the bottom line, framing human-centered initiatives as unnecessary drains. He warned of short-term costs, a low thrum of skepticism in boardroom discussions. Yasmin's meticulous reports counted him at every turn. Decreased turnover, rising productivity, and improved morale that translated into organizational vitality. These were not just numbers, but stories of reclaimed potential and individuals thriving. Rashid Al-Hamad, a figure of quiet conviction, stayed her anchor. His presence often quelled Ghazi's objections. His steady belief in Yasmin's vision radiated through the room, reinforcing the company's new ethical compass and solidifying the course of change. The ripple effect reached beyond corporate walls. Partnerships with local educational institutions flourished, creating skill pathways and mentorship programs to nurture future talent. The Grace Scholarship expanded, a beacon for students, offering financial aid, mentorship, and holistic support that transformed lives and enriched the broader ecosystem. Yasmin imagined a symbiotic relationship between Al-Hamad Holdings and its community, a reciprocal flow of growth that went beyond corporate social responsibility to real collective flourishing. The Riyadh skyline, a canvas of gold and amber at twilight, seemed to reflect that promise and sharpened her resolve. The work was far from over. Hidden resistance, subtle sabotage by those clinging to privileges, and ingrained inertia still required vigilance. Yet the air carried a different hum now, not trepidation, but burgeoning life. The desert rose unfurled, each new petal a testament to the courage required to cultivate justice in once barren ground, a quiet strength reshaping the organization's heart and illuminating the path through corporate renewal. The path through corporate renewal, though illuminated by a quiet strength, held an inherent fragility, a constant reminder that change was an ongoing endeavor, a symphony without a final chord. Yasmin understood this deeply as she moved through the revitalized spaces of Al-Hamad Holdings. The whispers of the past, though no longer deafening, still resonated faintly, echoing in the hushed conversations of employees, a subtle current beneath the surface of newfound transparency. She knew that trust, once broken, was not easily mended. It was a delicate art, requiring meticulous strokes of consistent action and unwavering presence. Her office, now a hub of both strategic planning and heartfelt dialogue, felt less like a static command center and more like a living organism, constantly adapting, breathing in the stories of the workforce and exhaling policies designed to foster their well-being. She envisioned the comprehensive wellness program not as a singular achievement, but as an ever-evolving commitment, a dynamic ecosystem where physical health intertwined with mental resilience, and emotional support formed the bedrock of a thriving community. The desert rose, in her mind, had transcended its metaphorical origin. It had become a tangible entity, its petals unfurling in the quiet dignity of a father's first paternity leave, the newfound solace in a mother's therapy session, and the palpable relief in a veteran worker's eased pain. Each instance was a testament to the power of deliberate cultivation, a validation of her unwavering belief that genuine success was inherently intertwined with human flourishing. The air, though filled with the scent of optimism, also carried the subtle undertones of continued vigilance, a silent promise that the struggles of the past would not be forgotten, but would serve as constant reminders, guiding the company toward a future where every voice, every life, was truly seen and unequivocally valued, ensuring that the grand composition of justice would play on. Its melody carried far beyond the gleaming towers of Riyadh. The inherent worth of overlooked employees began to shimmer in the newfound light Yasmin cast upon the company's shadowy corners. Each whispered grievance, each hesitant revelation became a tessera in a mosaic of systemic neglect, demanding her immediate, unwavering attention. She spent her days not in grand strategic meetings, but kneeling beside Amina as she polished marble, or sharing a humble lunch with Samir in the bustling employee canteen, absorbing the lived realities of their struggles. The faint scent of Arabian oud in her own office, once a solitary comfort, now mingled with the lingering memory of bleach and industrial cleaner, a constant reminder of the worlds she was bridging. The Riyadh skyline, a canvas of amber and gold at sunset, no longer simply reflected power, but began to gleam with the fragile promise of ethical dawn. a transformation she was meticulously cultivating, one honest conversation at a time. The weight of their collective stories settled deep within her, a profound responsibility she carried with quiet resolve. Jamal, the part-time janitor working full-time hours without commensurate benefits, spoke of weary bones and deferred dreams, his exhaustion etched into the lines around his eyes. Samira, a maintenance worker whose joint pain had become a constant, unwelcome companion, recounted years of silent suffering, afraid to request sick leave lest her meager earnings be further reduced. These were not isolated incidents, but symptoms of a pervasive culture where human cost was consistently sacrificed for corporate efficiency. Yasmin, armed with their truths, felt a fresh surge of determination, understanding that the rot beneath the polish of Al-Hamad Holdings was far more extensive than even Rashid had initially comprehended. She saw the hidden mechanisms of indifference, the subtle ways dignity was eroded, and resolved to expose every fault line. She knew that to truly dismantle this deeply entrenched system, her initiatives needed to be rooted in unassailable data and an unyielding moral imperative. Her meticulous reports, once mere summaries, now became narratives of individual lives, each data point representing a person whose potential had been stifled. She demanded immediate, unhindered access to internal audits, employee contracts, and financial records, a level of transparency that unsettled the old guard. Adnan Ghazi, the chief financial officer, became a more overt, though still subtly veiled, adversary. He met her demands with arguments couched in fiscal prudence, muttering about unsustainable costs and the need for efficiency. Yet his fear of losing control, of his meticulously constructed world unraveling, was palpable beneath the veneer of corporate jargon. Rashid Al-Hamad, however, stood as her unwavering ally, his initial bewilderment evolving into a steadfast conviction. He listened to Yasmin with an intensity that spoke of profound personal reckoning, his imposing presence softened by a newfound humility. His quiet authority in boardroom discussions became a vital counterpoint to Ghazi's resistance, a silent endorsement of Yasmin's vision. He understood that he had inherited a company built on a foundation of fear and systemic injustice, and his determination to rectify it matched her own. Together, they formed an unlikely, formidable front, preparing to confront the deeper, more insidious shadows lurking within the corporate empire. The path ahead was daunting, a labyrinth of ingrained resistance and subtle sabotage, but the first fragile petals of the desert rose had unfurled, signifying a future where every voice mattered. The labyrinthine path, though daunting, pulsed with a current of change, an energy that defied ingrained inertia. Yasmin felt the weight of that future pressing upon her, a sweet burden she embraced. The gleaming towers of Al-Hamad Holdings, once fortresses of opaque power, now shimmered with the promise of transparency, each pane reflecting the growing light of a collective awakening. She moved through the revitalized corridors with quiet authority, her presence a catalyst, unsettling the stagnant pools of tradition and fear. The memory of Amina's calloused hands polishing marble and Samir's tired smile in the canteen fueled her resolve, turning abstract policies into personal commitments. Initial tremors of change gave way to a steady hum of purposeful activity. Weekly listening circles, once met with hesitant silence, now resonated with authentic dialogue, a tapestry woven from shared experiences and trust. Employees long overlooked found their voices. Their stories became the bedrock of the company's evolving ethos. Jamal, the janitor, worked with a lighter step, fair benefits, and manageable hours lifting a visible burden. Samira, still contending with chronic pain, spoke with newfound confidence. Her concerns met not with platitudes, but with ergonomic adjustments and accessible support. These micro-victories, unseen by executive suites, proved the transformation. Each restored dignity, a testament to Yasmin's vision. Adnan Ghazi remained a persistent counterpoint, his fiscal prudence delivered with a thin veneer of civility, but underscored by fear of shifting power. He framed Yasmin's human-centric initiatives as extravagant drains on resources. His objections were increasingly met by unassailable data, higher retention, productivity upticks, and morale that translated into organizational vitality. Her reports were no longer just numbers, but narratives of reclaimed potential, each statistic carrying the faces of those finally thriving. Rashid Al-Hamad, a towering figure softened by humility, became her steadfast ally. His quiet presence in the boardroom countered Ghazi's resistance. He listened with an intensity that spoke of personal reckoning, a man dismantling the legacy of indifference he had unknowingly perpetuated. His strategic questions and subtle endorsements solidified a new ethical compass, ensuring the company's trajectory stayed true. He understood, painfully earned, that true prosperity linked to the well-being of every person within Al-Hamad Holdings. The fight against insidious shadows beneath the polished surface was far from over. Yasmin knew deep-seated biases, subtle sabotage by those clinging to privilege, and the inertia of a vast corporate structure required vigilance. Yet she drew strength from the unfurling petals of the desert rose, a symbol rooted in the fertile ground of justice. Each small victory, each whisper of new trust, each policy restoring dignity added a vibrant hue to the bloom. The path ahead, though labyrinthine and fraught, was illuminated by unyielding purpose, a quiet strength promising to reshape the organization's heart. The Riyadh skyline, ablaze with the setting sun, reflected this inner luminescence, a golden promise that the truth, once acknowledged, could not be swept into shadows, and that the grand composition of justice would continue to play beyond the towers. The air, calm yet vibrating with anticipation, preluded the next movement in her intricate symphony of change, a promise of collective flourishing unfolding, one deliberate, empathetic beat at a time. The grand composition of justice continued to play out, its melody echoing through the halls of Al-Hamad Holdings and far beyond. Yasmin, now a living symbol of the burgeoning truth, understood that the initial crescendo of revelations had settled into a steady, persistent rhythm of ongoing change. The corporate landscape, once marked by stark indifference, was slowly but irrevocably transforming, each deliberate step a testament to the power of unwavering empathy. Her mornings began not with dread, but with a quiet sense of purpose, watching the Riyadh skyline ignite with the desert dawn, each golden hue a promise of sustained vigilance. The work was endless, a tapestry woven with countless threads of individual stories and systemic overhauls. Yet her resolve remained unbroken, fueled by the conviction that genuine prosperity bloomed only in the fertile ground of justice. The Grace Scholarship Program, her personal triumph, continued to expand its reach, a beacon of hope for futures once extinguished, its recipients embodying the company's revitalized soul. These scholarships were meticulously designed to be more than mere financial aid. They were comprehensive support systems, integrating mentorship and holistic well-being into their very core, nurturing not just academic success, but also personal growth. The wary eyes of employees, once dulled by years of fear and neglect, now met hers with a growing flicker of trust, a fragile but persistent hope that their voices would not only be heard but acted upon, their concerns genuinely addressed. Even Adnan Ghazi, the persistent antagonist, found his arguments for fiscal prudence increasingly losing their potency against the irrefutable data Yasmin consistently presented. Her meticulous reports showcased the tangible benefits of a human-centric approach: reduced turnover rates, significant upticks in productivity, and a palpable rise in overall employee morale, demonstrating that investment in human capital was not an expense, but a strategic imperative. Rashid Al-Hamad remained her steadfast ally, his quiet strength and visible transformation a powerful counterpoint to any lingering dissent. His unwavering conviction, a silent promise that the old ways would never again prevail, resonated through the boardroom, solidifying the company's new ethical direction. The sprawling corporate empire, once a monument to unchecked ambition, was slowly but irrevocably reshaping itself, petal by painstaking petal, into a true desert rose, resilient, beautiful, and deeply rooted in the fertile ground of justice and empathy. Yasmin knew the path ahead was still long, fraught with unseen challenges, for entrenched biases and the subtle sabotage by those clinging to outdated privileges would inevitably resurface. Yet the air, once heavy with the weight of unspoken burdens, now carried the light, fresh scent of a nascent collective future, a vibrant tapestry of shared humanity unfolding with each passing day. The transformation was an intricate symphony, each note contributing to a grander composition of ethical leadership, ensuring that the whispers of the past never again became a deafening silence. The grand composition of ethical leadership at Al Hamad Holdings demanded constant attention, an ongoing performance where every player, from quiet observer to vocal executive, shaped its harmony. Yasmin felt the cadence of this new era within her, a profound link to the lives now touched by the company's conscience. She walked the corridors not as a mere director, but as a conduit for change, her presence a silent challenge to lingering shadows. The Riyadh skyline, a familiar backdrop to her work, mirrored her inner landscape, a testament to resilience, a canvas where golden dawn broke over what had been stark gray. The weight of cultivating such a shift, transforming an empire built on indifference into one rooted in empathy, was immense, yet it forged her spirit, sharpening focus and deepening her sense of true success. The shifts at Al Hamad Holdings were not confined to boardrooms. They seeped into the workplace atmosphere. The employee canteen, once a place of hurried silence, now buzzed with convivial chatter, evidence of renewed connections and shared belonging. Informal mentorships blossomed between veterans and recruits, fostering mutual support that outlasted formal training. The comprehensive wellness program, meticulously implemented, had taken root. Its effect showed in lighter steps leaving the clinics, in quiet relief after mental health sessions, and in the sustained energy of those embracing healthier habits from nutrition workshops. These were not mere benefits, but affirmations of worth, proof the company prioritized holistic well-being, resonating in every corner. Adnan Ghazi, increasingly isolated, kept up his veiled resistance, his appeals to financial prudence growing desperate and less convincing against Yasmin's data. Each report, reduced absenteeism, higher productivity, a palpable boost in morale, chipped away at his edifice of skepticism. The numbers spoke a language he knew, yet he struggled to reconcile them with his profit above all creed. Rashid Al Hamad, however, had become an unshakable pillar of support, his transformation now complete. His quiet authority and conviction countered Ghazi's dissent, his presence in the boardroom a potent endorsement of Yasmin's vision. He spoke rarely, but when he did, his words carried the weight of a man who had confronted his past and chosen integrity. Yasmin knew the desert rose, though planted firmly, required constant tending. The labyrinthine path of corporate renewal stretched onward, filled with unforeseen challenges, subtle sabotage from those clinging to fading privileges, and the inertia of a vast organization. Yet her resolve remained unbroken, fueled by the quiet strength of the collective. The knowledge that every voice heard, every life valued, wove the unfolding tapestry of shared humanity. The expansion of the Grace Scholarship Program into underserved communities continued to inspire, transforming destinies and enriching Riyadh's broader ecosystem. The city, bathed in twilight, pulsed with this newfound hope, a quiet promise that justice, once sown, would bloom, its fragrance carried on the desert wind beyond Al Hamad's towers. The air, though calm, vibrated with the anticipation of further growth, a testament to the enduring power of empathy poised for its next bloom. The air, though calm, vibrated with the anticipation of further growth, a testament to the enduring power of empathy poised for its next bloom. That quiet hum settled in Yasmin, a private melody guiding her through the dance of corporate reform. Each sunrise over Riyadh brought renewed clarity, painting the skyline in hues of a future she shaped, one deliberate brushstroke of justice at a time. Her role exceeded policy. It was constant translation, turning ideals into lived realities, so the company's heart beat with its people. The gleaming glass of Al Hamad's towers, once cold and imposing, now reflected a warmer, more inviting light, an external sign of an internal shift taking root. She knew transformation was not a single event, but a continuous becoming. The groundwork was laid, seeds of change sown, yet delicate shoots still needed tending. She watched mundane interactions, a security guard's polite greeting, laughter in the break room, the collaborative hum of a team, and felt them bloom with quiet vitality, signaling a cultural metamorphosis deeper than any boardroom decree. The wellness program, once met with hope and skepticism, had woven into daily life. Brighter demeanors and increased engagement made its benefits plain. She heard of employees finding solace in counseling, renewed energy from nutrition guidance, and real relief from schedules that honored lives beyond the office. Adnan Ghazi, ever the shadow, continued a subtle campaign of resistance, his appeals to financial restraint hollow against clear success. He clung to old metrics, unable to value the dividends of dignity and renewed purpose. His voice, once authoritative, now sounded desperate, proof of his waning influence. Yasmin met objections with quiet resilience and data linking well-being to growth. Her reports were not just numbers, but chronicles of reclaimed potential, stories of people not merely surviving but flourishing. Rashid Al-Hamad stood as her bulwark, his silent strength and conviction countering Ghazi's dissent. Having embraced the painful truth of his legacy, he became co-architect of a future rooted in ethical responsibility, his presence affirming the company's new course. Expanding the Grace Scholarship felt like a personal triumph, a radiant sign of Al-Hamad's rediscovered soul. It reached deeper into underserved communities, offering not only financial aid, but mentorship, emotional support, and skills development. Yasmin envisioned a symbiosis between the corporate giant and the community, a reciprocal flow of opportunity that went beyond philanthropy. Recipients once constrained by circumstance now walked with purpose, their stories weaving into Riyadh's ethical dawn. Each success proved justice was not abstract, but a force reshaping destinies and inspiring collective flourishing. The journey remained long, a labyrinth of challenges and inertia, yet her spirit stayed undimmed. The desert rose, carefully cultivated, unfurled another petal, casting a green shadow across barren ground, a symbol of hope and beauty, born from steadfast purpose. The air still carried that gentle vibration of anticipation, promising that the composition of justice, once begun, would continue, its melody echoing beyond the gleaming towers and inviting the next movement in her symphony of change. The symphony of change, though subtly swelling, met dissonant notes, a low thrum of resistance from unseen corners of the corporate labyrinth. Yasmin, aware of the delicate balance, moved with heightened vigilance, senses attuned to the ebb and flow of progress and recalcitrance. The towers of Al-Hamad Holdings, while reflecting the promise of a new dawn, also mirrored lingering shadows of past grievances and entrenched privilege. She understood that while initial battles for transparency and empathy had been won, the deeper war for cultural transformation demanded sustained effort and an unshakable belief in collective good. Her office, a sanctuary of strategic thought, became a crucible where ideals were forged into plans, each initiative a deliberate stroke in the larger artwork of justice. The expansion of the Grace Scholarship program countered whispers of cynicism, a living testament to Al-Hamad's commitment to equity. Its reach touched marginalized communities, transforming individual destinies and familial trajectories. Yasmin spent hours reviewing applications, each story reminding her of opportunity's impact. She envisioned not just financial aid, but a holistic support system where mentorship, mental well-being, and skill development converged, nurturing resilient individuals able to navigate complex futures. These success stories, once quiet ripples, created a tide that pulled others toward the company's renewed ethos. The once stifled voices of employees, emboldened by tangible change, formed a vibrant chorus, their narratives painting a compelling picture of a company invested in its people. Adnan Ghazi, a relic of the old guard, found his arguments for fiscal conservatism losing their power. His financial reports, once unassailable, now seemed anachronistic beside Yasmin's data, which showed the clear link between human-centric policies and long-term profitability. Reduced turnover, rising productivity, and increased engagement were measurable realities, each metric eroding Ghazi's influence. Rashid Al-Hamad, steadfast, remained Yasmin's anchor. His quiet conviction, born of personal reckoning, resonated in the boardroom, neutralizing dissent. He had embraced his role as co-architect of this era. His silent support testified to leadership rooted in integrity and a desire for systemic change. Yet the symphony of transformation was far from its finale. Yasmin knew deep-seated biases, subtle sabotage by those clinging to power, and the inertia of a vast corporate structure would pose obstacles. She prepared for unseen skirmishes with resolve. Understanding true cultural shifts require patient, persistent cultivation. The desert rose, in her mind, was not a fleeting bloom but a resilient entity, its petals unfurling in the dignity of every employee's rediscovered worth, its roots deepening into the fertile ground of justice. Each challenge overcome, each whisper of trust regained, each policy that restored dignity added hue to its blossoming. The path ahead, though labyrinthine, was lit by an unyielding purpose, a quiet strength promising to reshape the organization's heart. The Riyadh skyline, ablaze with the setting sun, reflected this inner light, a promise that truth, once acknowledged, could no longer be hidden. The air, calm yet vibrating with anticipation, preluded the next movement in her intricate symphony of change, a promise of collective flourishing unfolding, one deliberate, empathetic beat at a time, echoing beyond the towers, inviting a future where every voice mattered and justice found its song. The silence before the next challenge held a profound weight, a poised tension before a fresh, vital surge. The air, dense with a promise both daunting and exhilarating, finally yielded to the thunderous release of truth. No longer whispers, but a collective roar. The full audit findings of Al Hamad Holdings erupted into public consciousness, tearing through the carefully constructed facade of the corporate empire. Federal inquiries swiftly followed, their investigative glare illuminating every shadowed corner, exposing long-buried injustices with an unsparing intensity. Resignations became a cascade, each departure a tremor in the old foundation, as corrupt board members, their complicity now laid bare, fled the crumbling edifice of their privilege. Criminal referrals swiftly moved through the legal channels, a tangible sign that accountability was no longer a distant ideal but a rapidly approaching reality. Amidst the tumult, Rashid Al Hamad, his countenance etched with a profound blend of regret and resolve, stood firm. In a pivotal boardroom meeting, his voice, usually measured, now carried the weight of earned conviction as he cast the deciding vote, a powerful affirmation to keep Yasmin as director of People First. It was a choice that reverberated beyond the polished mahogany, a testament to a leadership forged in the crucible of truth. Yasmin, witnessing the crumbling of the old guard, felt a quiet wellspring of purpose deepen within her. Her commitment solidified. She moved with deliberate grace, initiating the Grace Scholarship Program, a living memorial to all who had suffered in silence. Each scholarship was not merely financial aid, but a pledge of holistic support, nurturing not just academic aspirations, but the inherent dignity of every recipient, a quiet act of redemption woven into the very fabric of the company's future. The Riyadh skyline, once a stark panorama of sterile wealth, now seemed to shimmer with a new kind of luminescence, reflecting a dawn not of opulence, but of genuine corporate ethics. Yasmin stood within this transformed landscape, her presence a living symbol of truth, acknowledging with every fiber of her being that the fight for justice was an ongoing journey, an eternal vigilance against the insidious return of silence. The collective voice, once stifled, now echoed through the halls of power, a melody of justice that once begun could never again be swept away by indifference or deceit. This was not an end point, but a vibrant beginning, a continuous unfolding where the company's heartbeat aligned with the flourishing of every soul it touched. The air, charged with the energy of collective hope and ongoing struggle, carried the light, fresh scent of a future being meticulously built, one deliberate, empathetic beat at a time. The desert rose, now a vibrant, resilient bloom, cast its verdant shadow across the once barren ground, a testament to the enduring power of truth. The composition of ethical leadership, a melody now established, required constant iteration, each note built on the last to prevent a return to discord. Yasmin felt this deeply. The fear of regression was a quiet undercurrent, a reminder that the desert, though blooming, could reclaim its barrenness without vigilant tending. Her gaze swept the Riyadh skyline at dawn, seeking not just inspiration, but renewed purpose. The golden hues on the towers were not mere decoration. They were a canvas for ongoing transformation, a relentless effort to keep the desert rose, a testament to justice, unfurling its petals. The collective future she envisioned was not a destination, but a living ecosystem woven with the dignity of every individual. The shift, though profound, demanded continual work, for entrenched biases lingered, subtle and insidious. Adnan Ghazi, clinging to the rusted framework of outdated privilege, remained a persistent, if diminished, presence. His arguments, once cloaked in fiscal prudence, now had a desperate undertone as his world dissolved under irrefutable data. Yasmin met his resistance with quiet, unwavering resolve. Each report narrated lives reclaimed and potential unleashed. The rise in productivity, the boost in morale, the drop in turnover, these were not statistics, but proof that investing in people was the truest prosperity. Rashid Al-Hamad, his transformation a bedrock of the company's new ethos, stood as her unshakable pillar, his quiet strength radiating through the boardroom, a promise that indifference would not prevail. The Grace Scholarship, Yasmin's triumph, had transcended its original purpose, becoming a multifaceted beacon. It offered mentorship to foster leadership, mental wellness initiatives to nurture resilience, and skills pathways to empower futures. Its reach into underserved communities transformed destinies and enriched Riyadh's broader ecosystem. She felt a profound connection to each recipient. Their stories wove into the larger narrative of a company genuinely invested in its people. They were the pearls on velvet, no longer obscured by neglect but brought into the light, their worth shining. Yet the symphony of change was far from its final movement. Unforeseen challenges emerged like desert mirages, subtle sabotage by those clinging to power, inertia within the corporate structure, and the ever-present threat of external cynicism. Yasmin knew vigilance was paramount. The glass dome around the desert rose required constant reinforcement. She launched monthly open dialogue forums, spaces for raw, unfiltered feedback, so every concern and nascent idea could be heard and acted on. These forums became crucibles of collaboration, where trust, slowly and painstakingly, took root and wary glances turned to shared purpose. A vision unfolded meticulously, a choreography where every deliberate step contributed to a grander composition of ethical leadership. The company's heartbeat now pulsed with the flourishing of every soul it touched. The air, once heavy with unspoken burdens, carried the light scent of a collective future, a tapestry of shared humanity. Yasmin, standing at the precipice of this new era, felt the weight of its promise, knowing the fight for justice was an eternal journey, and that truth, once allowed to bloom, would cast its verdant shadow, enriching the ground and inviting the next surge of transformation.